Welcome to episode 63 of the Self-Care 101 podcast, helping you to overcome self-doubt and create a life by design with purpose, with your host, Puja McClymont. Thank you so much for listening today. In today's show, I'm going to be speaking with Komal, who very courageously has decided to share her journey of living with depression for over 40 years and the positive impact the pandemic has had on her seeking support. I met Komal a few years ago in a Facebook group and she started following me on social media. When I shared my story of depression, she instantly resonated, and in a way, this began her journey back to self. Now this year, as the pandemic hit, Komal found herself reclusing in her home, locking herself away from her husband and daughter while she was working. And it was after a few months of little interaction with her family that she decided that she wanted to take affirmative action to start working on her depression. Self-care, by putting her needs first, has been the major catalyst to change, as well as being more aware of her outward behaviour towards situations. She found that once she had admitted to herself that she wanted to do something about managing her mental well-being, it was imperative to share more with her closest people and communicate more effectively about the way she was feeling. Although at the start of this journey, Komal coming onto the show is a fierce bit of accountability for herself to continue with the great work she is already doing, and I hope that this episode serves as some hope and inspiration for anyone listening that might be looking for support. So let's get to it. Thank you so much for doing the show today. This is going to be an interesting show, I think, for a lot of the listeners.
Yeah, I'm nervous and excited all at the same time.
Yeah, I can understand that. So let's get straight into it, Komal. What has inspired you to do this show today?
So, with a deep breath, I want to talk about mental health and what a big impact this has had on my life. I've suffered at varying levels throughout my life, I would say. And personal experiences from friends and family have led me to strive to talk more openly about it for therapeutic reasons and just to own what I feel. There's a lot of stigma attached to it, and I just feel people are not as open as they should be. And I want to come out and talk about it openly, and I would like to raise awareness of such a big impact in my life, but I think particularly this year, it's impacted the most strongest people.
No, definitely, for sure. So do you want to just get straight in and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, so I feel I've had some form of emotional health, mental health, depression, call it what you like. People are comfortable with different terms. Most of my life, I would say, I'm in my mid-40s, but I think it stems from my childhood when my parents got divorced when I was 10 years old. And I think it really affected my childhood due to the circumstances of the divorce. There's nothing wrong with divorce, it's the way of life nowadays, but it was the circumstances. I'm not going to go into
it must have been quite hard as well, because you're Indian, and considering your age as well, at the time divorce wasn't the most popular thing to be doing in our society, was it?
No, it was over 30 years ago. Two Asians couple with 3 kids, girls, and it was definitely frowned upon, looked upon. We were looked at as they feel sorry for 3 little girls with parents split, and the shame, the embarrassment of the family for us. So yeah, all that added to my personal journey of not having one parent around at any one time.
Yeah.
And just literally having to grow up myself without the love and the attention that I give to my daughter that I have now. So without going into too much detail about that, that has had a knock-on effect in terms of every relationship I've had, motherhood, and also day to day, my confidence, my self-worth. And as a result, my emotional health has been very fragile.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie, but I can honestly say I've spent at least 50% of my life in a low emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes just existing and not living.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it is so important to me, and that I want to talk about it. I want to own it. I want it to be a positive thing to come out about it. And there's been certain turning points and situations that have made things better, depending on highs and lows in your life. But the cycle tends to continue. There'll be dips and ups, and my sisters laugh sometimes because they say, "Oh, you're in a zone again," and then I could be in a complete dip the week after or 2 weeks after, and it's a running joke we have between us, but it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
To add to that, I do suffer from premenstrual tension, PMT.
Yeah.
So at least a week before my cycle, I do get really down, and depending what's going on in my life, if it's not great, that's worse and exaggerated. So things are obviously a roller coaster, and that's how I live my life. And there's a lot of ups and downs, and that's just me. So imagine the impact this has on my loved ones, my family, my work, my whole being, my whole life. So that's why I just couldn't carry on. And this year, I really had to do something about it. I have had a lot of time on my hands, even though I've been incredibly busy at work, and call it a midlife crisis, but it was time to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So on a positive note, I really wanted to own it, in terms of what I feel and the knock-on effect that it has on people's life. And that's why I started my journey to seek out for help. But what kind of help? Because I find it very difficult to trust people.
Yeah.
So I thought about getting some help from charities anonymously, which I did. But you don't have a dedicated person. You get someone different every time. But there are some amazing charities there, so that is a good first step. And then the universe introduced me, or we found each other, and I started my coaching journey with you, Puja, and that is what has given me the confidence to speak out, and to sort of own it and do something about it. You just listening and about my journey, and then summarizing in a couple of bullets of where I am and what I should do was so impactful. And as a result, I've done an incredible amount of self-care myself, because I didn't want someone else to help me, even though you did, but I wanted to do the work myself because I knew what work I needed. So you gave me that push and that confidence, and I would never have done or be where I am today. So that I'm hugely grateful for that, to you, to the universe, and to the wonderful people I have in my life. I feel very lucky and fortunate. I feel truly grateful. I also have, I believe, some guardian angels in my life that have come into my life at the right time, where I've cried myself to sleep, and they've just walked into my life, sent me a random message, and we've connected. Some people from the past, some just friends there at the right time. And I can't believe that, and I because I've experienced it, I truly believe in the universe. So now I feel I want to, and I'm trying, and I will continue to live a life with purpose, rather than the existing life or winging life. my motto has always been life is a gift. You know, some people are less unfortunate. They don't live a full life. They have disabilities. You know, whatever. You know, we have a life. We're healthy. We're happy. We have a roof under our head. We have a family to love.
I mean, those are all things that, you know, we often obviously take for granted. And like this month, I'm focusing on gratitude on my socials and everything else as the year wraps up. And I mean, obviously, we do naturally take these things for granted because they're just, you know, they're just there, and you know, just know that they're going to be there. But how do you? Because when you're in a depressive state, not you necessarily, but like you, the royal you, when you're in a depressive state, it's very difficult to even appreciate those simple things, you know. So how have you managed over the years with your depression to deal with the day to day and keep bringing yourself back to that whole life as a gift thing? Because it sounds like that's been your underlying purpose, or the foundation and baseline that hasn't led you to fall off completely into your depression. But what's made you sort of be able to get through day to day, month to month, year on year?
Some days I've just had to really push myself. You know, my daughter, she's a drive, she's 9 years old. So she absolutely gives me a purpose. You know, her smile, her words, her inspiration, her maturity at that age is incredible. And yeah, I just try to find motivation from anywhere. But when I'm in such a low emotional, mental state, even the nicest things, it's almost like if somebody is happy, I almost feel like, how could they possibly be happy? How could they possibly be happy? And why do I feel that? Because I am not happy. If I see someone smile or something positive happens, there's almost like how could that happen to them? It's not jealousy, that's the wrong word, but it's like, it's why? How could they feel like that? I'm feeling rubbish. How could they feel like that? But it's all down to, that's my energy. That's what I'm feeling. That's what this illness has made me feel. And that's my projection of everything in life, you know, and people see me like that and they try to perk me up and whatever, but I'm not interested. Nothing is enough. You know, you can buy me flowers, and the first thing I say is, why did you buy me flowers? I don't want them. The first thing, if someone bought me flowers, I have to cut them, put them in a vase, find a vase, put the water. Not thank you, wow, they're beautiful, and that was a random act of kindness. So it's a complete different negative frame of mind that puts you into that zone. And how do I pull myself out? I have to just find a way of keep going, and I don't have an answer to that, Puja. It's just something, and I just drown myself into something, and I keep busy, you know, and I keep busy, and I don't let my mind I don't just sit around.
Yeah, I mean, keeping busy is obviously a good thing to do. But then you see, for someone like me in the sort of therapeutic space would say, you know, it's covering up, dealing with the root issues and the actual problem. And what will happen is you'll get to a point in life where it will literally just smack you in the face and say, mental health here, we've been giving you lots of warnings, but you've not been listening, so here's a breakdown for you, and here's this and here's that, and you know, and then you have to deal with it. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's not that it's too late, but you're so far down that path of depression, so deep into the depression, it's very difficult to come back up, and it will take a lot longer, obviously. So it's admirable that you've recognized within yourself that you've got to this point in life where you do want to do something about it. You recognize that this has been a chronic condition for you, and that there are options available to you to be able to, if anything, I mean, I don't think you ever heal or recover fully from any mental health challenge. I think that's something that's just part of you, part of DNA, and there's plenty of science to back that up now as well. I think you just get better at managing it. you replace the negativity almost with more resilience. You just basically replace that negativity with a more positive action or thought or behavior, as opposed to just going down that negative spiral. It's funny actually, because a couple of weeks ago I just was at a really low point, and it happens here and there. When you're running a business, there's a lot of highs and lots of lows, and it's par of the course. But in the last couple of weeks, I really struggled, and obviously the weather's changed too and things like that. And it took me 2 weeks to sort of get my head out of the funk that I was in. Yeah. And I did all the things that I would do with a client, went through the process, allowed myself to cry, feel, things like that. But every time I was crying, I couldn't cry enough. So like my heart was heavy, but I couldn't cry fully because my brain was going, yeah, okay, so we've cried a little bit. Now get on with what you need to get on with to change the situation. It was like I was having this battle with my emotions and my brain. My brain was just, don't you know that the crying's just going to release you a little bit, but you know what you need to be doing to get yourself back up. And it was a funny little couple of weeks. And I tend to recluse when I'm in that kind of zone where I'm not sure what exactly is wrong. Yeah. And I sort of recluse. I don't really engage with anybody unless I have to. And I keep my life to the bare minimum. So I'll only see clients. I won't do more than I almost have to do. And even at home. So I do very little at home. And my husband knows this about me. And over the years, he's gotten better at not coaxing out of me what's wrong before I'm ready to talk about it. Because I'll always tell him, but I need to know what's wrong first before I start talking to him.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then the other day I managed to speak to him, and I told him what had been happening and the whole cycle, and just saying it all out loud to him made me feel better about how I was resetting. So I took a couple of days. My child was at my mum's, and I took a couple of days for myself. And in that time, I was able to reset and start sort of, a Sunday or a Monday morning with more of a focused intention, for my life, which was really nice. And it's something that I've built up over time, I guess, because, my breakdown was in 2012. So I've built it up over time to know how to bounce back, but to also allow myself to feel. So there's nothing wrong in feeling and being down and things like that, and going through the motions that you need to go through. But it was a very heavy one this year, and I think it was just because it was this year, and then the weather, and it's just that kind of thing. But what do you think has kind of contributed to your feelings or your thought patterns when it comes to, like you were saying, that example of the flowers, such a simple, kind gesture, but you go straight to, oh, now I've got to cut them, or why have you bought them for me? What do you think's contributed to that kind of thought process?
It's because I'm not happy, so I don't see happiness. I don't appreciate kindness. I don't appreciate the gratitude is not there. I've had friends that I don't know very well that have surprised me on my birthday with cakes and things that you would do, and you don't really know them. And now I reflect back, and I was like, I didn't even appreciate that, but they did it from the goodness of their heart, and I'm grateful for that now. But at the time, I was in such a state that I was just like, why did you do this for me? You're embarrassing me in front of 10 people. And, oh, yeah, it's a nice cake, and now I've got to take it home. Who's going to eat it? And let me quickly blow the candle and take a picture. But if you take a picture, I'm going to look so rubbish because I feel rubbish, and look at my spots. And, the whole new meaning to thought process, like overthinking and completely negative, like, in myself because of zero self-worth and confidence, but also towards people. Like, obviously, that was a nice gesture. You got me a cake, you surprised me, amazing. But I almost appreciated it a year later than at that time. And they probably thought, oh my God. seriously. Or maybe they didn't, and I'm overthinking. And my thank you was enough. My smile was in my fake smile was enough. But for me, if I reflect back, and again, that's just another example. But I resonate with exactly what you're saying as well. That going back to your question is, how do you cope day to day? Yes, I've deflected, I've winged it most of my life. I haven't dealt with the root cause. That's why it was so pertinent when I spoke to you and you gave me some, a summary of what's been going on in my life since my childhood, over 30 years. You summarized it in 3 sentences. And that's when it was like, I need to get my things together here. And and you inspired me, because I was like, a year ago when I read your story, I was like, that was my initial thought. She can do it, I can do it. Power to her. Puja has inspired me. And then we had our chat, embarked on the coaching with yourself, and that's where it all stems from. So yeah, when I say own it, I really want to own it. And it doesn't mean it's going to go, like you say, but it's here to stay. It's part of me. It's part of my being. But it's, again, like you say, how you cope with it, how you get your family who you live with to cope with it, how you give them the warning signs. So, for my PMT, I say, right, I don't say a week before, but when I'm on and it's my cycle, I'm on. So they know. Even, my daughter, she'll say, Mommy, are you on your period? She will just say that. And how does she know that? Because I have had those chats with her and she knows. And sometimes she will be sarcastic. She'll be like, oh my God, you're just too much today. And you're shouty, Mummy. And, or, oh, how could that simple thing just make you cry? And why are you so emotional? And, so when we are calmer and I'm out of that phase, I explain to her that this is what happens. And I explained to her that it's not just happening to me. It could happen to a lot of women, but they might not talk about it. But this is what happens to Mummy. This is the effect that it has on us, on our family, on my day-to-day. So please just bear with me. Be kind. Be nothing but kind, because I am super sensitive at those times. So yeah, it's just finding coping mechanisms. And obviously I have got better, but what makes it worse is if there's anything going on major in my life, like work stress or home stress or family stress, anything. And, and I want to know how to deal with those in a calm and productive way, because, and with good energy, because I want to set a role model to my daughter. If she goes through this, or she has any sort of effect or knock-on effect to the kind of mummy I've been to her, I want her to be able to deal with it. She's 9, she's faced quite a lot in her life already. And we've, tried to nip things in the bud as quick as possible and try to make her stronger and resilient. And that is so important to me, because I didn't particularly have that as a child, growing up. So yeah, so all that it rolls into one. So in terms of what I'm grateful for in terms of this whole journey, in a really, really roundabout way, I'm grateful for this journey I've been through. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but it is what it is. You get the cards you're dealt in life and you deal with it. But as a result, on a good day and on a good face, it's made me stronger, resilient. And this is the big one, more empathetic towards people and situations in life. Don't judge, because we can come across as a lion, a tiger, but what's going on inside, nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. You said it at the top of the call, didn't you, about when you were saying you're nervous or something, and I said, yeah, and you're like, oh, I'm not as strong as you, and I said, I'm not necessarily as strong as you think either. You know, like we all have our things, we all have our weaknesses, we have our vulnerabilities, different times of year, different things that are going to spark those, and having that compassion and empathy, like you say, for other people is always important, to sort of perceive their potential point of view. Because even like you said with the birthday example, you know, those friends that gave you the cakes, you know, their expectation of your gratitude might have just been what you had given them, which was the fact that they had surprised you, and that in itself for them was enough of gratification for them, you know, potentially.
Yeah.
And then how you received it, you know, you thanked them. At least you didn't sort of say, you know, what have you given me these cakes for? Well, it's your birthday, so that answers that, you know, that sort of thing. And then I guess from an you know, a bigger perspective, you were saying that they weren't friends that you knew very well, but clearly you had an impact on their life enough for them to want to do something for you. And sometimes in life, the people that we expect to do the things that we would like them to do, they don't. They disappoint us, and that's because of the expectations we put on them. So you might have actually been a better friend to them than they have in their life, you know. So it's always it's nice when you can start looking at the different perspectives of people and building up your own self-awareness as well. So knowing that you might not have been grateful enough at a time, or you might not have been thankful, whatever, or appreciative enough towards somebody's actions. And it's something then, once you have that self-awareness, and when you're obviously, I know you're just at the beginning of the journey, but once you're in a more comfortable place, you can go back to those people and say, do you know what, I don't feel I expressed my gratitude enough for the things that you did, because at the time I was actually battling with this, and I just want to say today X, Y, and Z. And even if they don't appreciate your apology, and they don't appreciate your newfound, you know, self-awareness and healing, it's not for them, it's for you.
Yeah.
It's because it's for you to be at peace with yourself, and also to not fall down the negative thought spiral because you didn't, you know, take the action to actually, you know, let them know.
Funny you should say that, because I've done that twice to two people that's been bugging me for years, and I wanted that closure, exactly like you said, for myself. And I did that, and I just randomly got something, went to see them just one evening after they put the kids to bed or whatever it is, and closure times two. There's a couple left, but that will happen.
Yeah, it'll happen when you're ready.
Yeah.
So with this journey that you wanted to talk about, I mean, what sort of things, I guess, have happened in the recent past that has, maybe in the last couple of years or the last year, that has sort of inspired you to get to this point where you actually want to see what you can do to help yourself be better?
So I want to, because I feel I've become more resilient, empathetic. I want to raise awareness. I'm passionate about that, and because I have firsthand experienced it, I'm living it. I'm living with it, and I want to help other people in that situation.
So what I meant was, like, did something happen within your family life or work life, or just within yourself, that was almost like a trigger that sparked you to go, I can't carry on living like this, or I've got to make change? But what was there a situation that happened?
This year, April, May, I found really hard. I had a real big dip. So March, obviously COVID. First couple of weeks, I was like, oh, this is fab, you know, homeschooling, we'll be all together, we'll entertain each other, work from home, rock and roll. And it was almost like a high that, I've got this, you know. And then after 2-3 weeks, I was like, are you serious? And I'd lock myself upstairs in the bedroom and work. And then everyone else would be downstairs and trying to do homeschooling with limited patience. So I sacked myself from that job.
Yeah.
And I dipped in and out. I didn't do the lion's share, guilty. But I was annoying. Have you done this? What have you done? Why haven't you done it? I did change my tact after about a month because it wasn't working. So yeah, but that I did have about a 6 weeks dip, and at one point I was at such a low, and I was being invited to Zoom calls left, right, and centre, and I was like, what is the fuss about? Like, I don't even want to talk to anyone, let alone sit on a Zoom call. It was, a chore to even get out of your pajamas. Forget brushing your hair. Brushing your teeth was like a bonus. So and we've all been through that, and everybody who says that it was a 100% positive experience, hats off to them. But 90% of the people I've spoke to have been affected in some shape or form. It's been life-changing in whatever way you want to take it. So that was the poignant turning point. And I think
it was almost like having that extra time, I guess, of even though it wasn't necessarily quiet, but it was a different day to day, but that kind of forced you into reflection and what you like and what you don't like, I guess.
100%. And like you said, like I said, and you commented that I said I stayed busy. Although I was busy because it was the busiest quarter for my work, I also had a lot of thinking time and downtime because I didn't have other people to speak to. I didn't want to speak to my family because they were busy doing what they were doing. And because I was feeling rubbish, every time I came down, there was a little argument or a bicker. So I locked myself upstairs. I wouldn't even come down for lunch some days because I was like, I'm done with them. It's their fault I'm feeling like this, because I was releasing on them. And then me and my daughter were clashing, and it was, you can't leave the house. We'd leave the house at 5:30 to go to the park for fresh air, and that became a norm. So that was good. But, that was a real turning point. And it, I think for 2 weeks, it was a real dip. I haven't had one of those dips for years. And I totally winged it. Luckily, I didn't have to see anyone or go anywhere or do anything because, like you said, I was in hibernation mode from my family. I would wake up and stay in my room in front of my laptop. And even the drafting an email was hard, for work. I couldn't string a sentence together. So, it was really hard. And, I have told... I did share that with my work as well, but work has been a lifesaver as well, because it's something that's given me purpose, So so that was what made me feel, and that was like, that's what I need to change, and that's what I'm going to change. And in between those 2 months, I think that's when we had our chat, and and it's, again, all the stars were aligned, and again, the universe, things happen for a reason. So we are where we are. So it's a journey. It will continue, and let's see where it goes. But this is the first huge step for me.
Definitely carve out. I mean, this is a bit coaching, but you can carve out. You can carve out where it goes. Where you want it to go, and just work towards where you want it to go. And it doesn't have to be a destination that is absolute. It can be at the end of 2021, I would like to be spending 2 nights a week with my daughter, just doing fun stuff. I want to have a date night every month with my husband, and we don't talk about our daughter, and we don't talk about work. I want to have a girls' night every 3 months, or I want to do spa days, whatever it is. But it's like, start plotting it so it's not this one absolute goal I want to recover from, or I want to manage, or I want to, because all of that's going to happen if you continue to choose to manage the depression.
Yeah.
But getting like really specific and tangible on things that you can go, oh, okay, so I managed once a month now with my daughter. I can, we're doing silly things like getting our nails done or hair, or I'm letting her put my makeup on, or whatever it is that, gets her sort of excited, whatever it is. But even that once a month is more than you were doing 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's doing these small incremental things that lead up to living that more fulfilled life, but consciously living that fulfilled life, because it's not about being fulfilled is not about the things that we take for granted, having a roof over our head, someone to love, etc. It's about genuinely feeling consciously fulfilled by it, so that when you wake up, it's not that you're like, yeah, obviously I'm grateful that I've got a roof over my head. You're just like, I am so grateful that I have a roof over my head. As much as I would like X, Y, and Z, I'm still living in this beautiful house. I've got this. I can drive. I can dress. I can socialize. I've got personality. I've got a child, or I've got a partner, whatever it is that you have in your life. It's consciously appreciating it. And that's the important thing, because it's your subconscious and your unconscious that likes to question what you're doing.
I one thing really resonates is this year, that's another way, and my coping mechanism from what you've just said is I like to book or do things and have something to look forward to. So obviously this year, no travel, no holidays, and we usually have at least 3 holidays. We're not rich, just very savvy with the bargains, and but one sort of long haul and 2 sort of cheapy European ones, a weekend break or whatever, right? Working around school holidays. So obviously this year is 0. So that was honestly, without me even knowing and working it out at the time, that had a huge impact, because obviously we had Easter holidays, we had summer holidays, we had October. So, we had a staycation, but it's not quite the same as, the Caribbean cruise we went on last year in New York. So no disrespect to this country, and I've seen some beautiful parts, honestly, and I never would have. So again, grateful for that, but you can't compare Caribbean to
I mean, you can't compare a white sandy beach and an azure blue suit.
So
Yorkshire.
So that's another coping mechanism. So now I've done other things to look forward to. Like, I'm meeting a friend after Christmas who I haven't seen for a while, that I used to work with, and she's pregnant. It's a surprise baby, number 3. So nice. I'm elated to spend the time. She's like, oh, let's meet as a family. I said, no, I want to meet you, just you, leave the family at home. Because I organised her baby shower for baby number 2. And obviously that won't happen this year. So I said, no, I'm going to keep the day free for you. We're going to do afternoon tea, and then we'll go for a meal.
Nice.
So we're going to keep half a day for each other, free. So that's keeping me going already,
That's great. That's great. So would you say that that's one of the things that you're doing for your self-care? Because I'm going to ask you about your sort of top 3 things that you're doing. So
those are the things that keep me going, and again, with work, I set myself goals or to-do list. I'm very unrealistic with my to-do list. Like, I put 10 things down, and I put undue pressure on myself, like something that does not have to be done today. Komal wants it to be done today. Why? No one's told me. My boss hasn't told me. No one's put a gun to my head. I'm not going to get a pay rise for doing it, but Komal wants to do it. So now I set myself a realistic, and you know what? If you don't pass or get through your to-do list, you know what? The earth is not going to move. So I think I think a lot of people are guilty of this, and we do that at work, at home, in our personal lives, and we set these unrealistic expectations. But so now I'm being a bit realistic. I'm not being so hard on myself.
Good.
That if I haven't done that thing that was due in on Monday, on Thursday, by Thursday,
Yeah.
It's fine. Get over it. Get over it.
So those are two things, by booking in time with people that you want to spend time with, obviously prioritizing yourself in that, getting more realistic with your work tasks. What's the third thing that you're doing about your self-care?
So yeah, connecting with myself, really connecting my energy, the way I carry myself, the way I really understand my mind and my body. That is a big one. And again, that's not specific, it's overarching. But
Would you say that's self-awareness?
Self-awareness, yeah, we can bubble it into that. Eating healthy, balanced diet and exercising, because I think that's become really important this year. And I really try, because I do like my binge at 8:00. That's my reward. And that's my huge weakness. Like I could, yeah. And also I'm quite a hyper energetic, high energy person. Which is good and bad. Some people think I'm a bit too out there. But that's me. So, but I think I could just be a little bit more calmer. Just for me, I would like to be, because I could come across a bit too in your face.
I think maybe not so much about caring about what other people think in that situation. Like, high energy is fine, but it's just to maintain high energy will deplete your energy. So it's sort of finding that nice balance where you're still yourself and you're a highly energetic person, but you're not denying yourself, but you're saving some for yourself as well. So it doesn't sort of like keep being put out there rather than, being given to self.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. That's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah.
All right, my darling. Well, I think that was a lovely conversation. I'm really grateful for you sharing your journey, and that, you're making moves to make it all happen now for you this year, which is wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners before we go?
No, just a huge thank you to you, and you just don't know how great you are.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Self-Care 101 podcast. If you enjoyed the show, I would love it if you would subscribe, rate and review so that other people like you can find the show. To find out more about me, you can follow me on the socials at Puja McClymont, or visit my website, pujamcclymont.com. Talk to you soon.